The candlelight in the war room flickered like anxious sentries. Maps littered the mahogany table. Red pins bled across West Africa. Blue ones barely clung to its borders. President Ibrahim Traoré stood motionless, hands behind his back, his crimson beret casting a long shadow over the tactical chaos below. General Yacouba Diomande, his closest ally since the coup, cleared his throat. They breached Sector 7. We lost the radar station. Satellite uplink went down 5 hours ago. Traoré turned, his gaze cutting like a scythe. And why wasn't I informed 5 hours ago? The room froze. Even the ceiling fan seemed to pause. Yacouba hesitated. We were verifying the source. We feared misinformation. No, General, Traoré said, stepping closer, voice low and icy. You feared the truth. Silence returned. Then came a whisper, not from the generals, but from the corridor outside, a faint rustle, almost imperceptible. Traoré raised a hand. His bodyguards reacted instantly, weapons drawn. The iron doors creaked open. A young officer stumbled in. It was Lieutenant Aminata, Keïta, the most decorated intelligence officer under 30. Her uniform was torn, dust in her braids, blood on her hands. Mr. President, she gasped. There's a mole. Every heartbeat in the room skipped. Speak, Traoré commanded. Aminata fell to her knees, unrolling a scroll of intercepted messages, encrypted transmissions. Someone from your inner circle has been feeding classified positions to General Bamba in Côte d'Ivoire. Who? Traoré demanded. She looked up, trembling. I traced the last signal to General Diomande's office. All eyes turned to Yacouba. His face twitched, not fear, but offense. He stepped forward, rigid and noble. This is madness, he barked. I've fought beside you. I bled for you. And yet, Traoré murmured, it is in blood that the deepest betrayals are written. Yacouba reached for his badge. Let me explain. Stand down, barked Captain Mori, Traoré's personal guard. Rifles raised. Yacouba's men flinched. The air grew dense with history, comradeship, and suspicion. But Traoré raised a single hand, palm open. Let him speak. I will not execute words before they are spoken. Yacouba's face softened. I did send messages, but not to the enemy. To an underground alliance in Senegal. They've pledged reinforcements, 100 men. If we fall here, we fall alone. I couldn't risk delay bureaucracy, so I acted. Aminata shook her head. Then why were your messages addressed to Rimbaud, Bamba's code name? Traoré stepped back. The war room's breath hung on a knife's edge. The president looked at Yacouba, as if searching for a memory inside a mirror. I asked you once, he said softly. If you believed in this revolution, you said yes. I do. Then swear it again. Oh! I swear it, Yacouba said, kneeling, fist to chest. On my blood. Traoré turned to Aminata. He'll be detained. No torture, no humiliation, just silence, until we find the truth. Traoré didn't resist, as guards led him away. His eyes met the president's, not with hate, but with something worse, hurt. When the door closed, Traoré slumped into his chair, not the throne-like seat of power, but a soldier's chair, iron, plain, burdened. I trusted him like a brother, he muttered. Traoré did Aminata, remained silent, then gently, that is why betrayal hurts, not because it's unexpected, but because it's earned. Traoré chuckled, bitterly. You read too many books. Someone has to. He smirked. Rest, eat, then report again at midnight. She saluted, turned, then paused. Sir, if I may, if he's innocent, we just chained our strongest arm. Traoré nodded. And if he's guilty, we just prevented a dagger. Aminata left. The door clicked behind her, like a closing wound. Traoré turned to the map again. Blood and borders, lies and loyalty, and the weight of one name, now hanging in the balance. 2 hours past midnight, the air in Ouagadougou turned cold like the hush before a storm. Inside the presidential compound, a different kind of storm brewed. President Traoré paced the narrow hallway outside the intelligence briefing room, hands behind his back, lips pressed into a tight line. Inside, Aminata Keïta stood over a set of monitors, her eyes scanning encrypted communications, bouncing off satellites above Africa. Her fingers moved like a concert pianist's, decoding data packets, cross-referencing IPs, scanning for signatures that didn't belong. Then she froze. "Got something?" she called through the intercom. Traore entered. His bodyguard stayed at the door. "Another message?" he asked. "Yes," she said, but it wasn't sent from Yacouba's terminal. He raised an eyebrow. "Then from where?" She hesitated. "From your advisor's office." Sidi Tall. The president's jaw clenched. Sidi Tall had been more than an advisor. He was the face of diplomacy, the smooth voice at every foreign negotiation. Tall had survived 3 attempted assassinations, outwitted Western envoys, and was trusted with secrets known only to the innermost circle. And now his office was a crime scene. "Pull the security feeds," Traore said. Aminata tapped a few keys. The screen shifted to grainy night footage. At 2:37 a.m., a figure in a gray suit stepped into Tall's office, face hidden, gloved hands. They inserted a USB stick into the mainframe, waited and left. Only one person wore that suit regularly. Tall, Traore whispered. He didn't even disguise himself. Aminata turned, either arrogance or desperation. "Where is he now?" His driver said he left for a diplomatic errands at midnight. "He hasn't returned." Traore slammed his fist against the wall. 2 betrayals in one day. "God tests me with fire." Aminata's face remained calm, but her eyes glinted with the weight of hard truth. "Or perhaps it's not betrayal, sir. Perhaps it's chess." He looked at her, puzzled. What if someone's staging this, planting breadcrumbs to turn allies into enemies? He folded his arms. Then someone's orchestrating chaos with surgical precision. A knock at the door. It was Captain Mori. "Sir, you'll want to see this." They followed him to the courtyard, where 2 soldiers escorted a man in cuffs, his head bloodied but held high. It was Sidi Tall. "You found him?" Traore asked. "I found us," Mori replied. He turned himself in at the checkpoint, said he had information only you should hear. Tall was brought into the war room, the same place Yacouba had knelt only hours before. He stood in the same spot, his suit torn, lips swollen. Traore stood over him. "Why?" "I didn't betray you," Tall said, voice hoarse. "I betrayed the ones who tried to buy me." "Explain." "I was approached 6 months ago. The French. They offered me sanctuary, money, even a fake family in Marseille. All they wanted was my silence on Project Cuba." Traore narrowed his eyes. "Cuba was decommissioned." "No," Tall said. "Cuba went underground. But not on our side. Someone else revived it, and I played along to expose them." Traore circled him like a lion. "You expect me to believe you were running counterintelligence alone?" "I recorded every meeting, every drop point, even coded their language. It's all here." He pulled a blood-stained flash drive from his inner jacket. "But if I handed it in without context, they'd erase me before I could explain." Aminata plugged in the drive. Screens came alive. Surveillance clips, payment logs, audio files, foreign voices, European dialects, names, faces. One name caught Traore's attention. Yacouba. He stepped forward. "Is this fabricated?" he asked. Tall shook his head. "No, but listen to the full clip." Aminata hit play. Yacouba's voice. "I'll agree to the Senegal deployment, but I won't sell out my president. If that's your price, walk away." Traore exhaled sharply. "Redemption, or something like it." He turned to Mori. "Release Yacouba. Bring him here." Gently. Tall leaned forward. "Mr. President, we're being dismantled from within. Not by traitors, but by puppeteers. And the strings," Traore murmured, "are made of trust." Within minutes, Yacouba entered, confused but not angry. He eyed Tall. "So it wasn't me?" "No," Traore said. "It was you and him, both being played." Yacouba exhaled, then nodded. "We've bled enough for other men's games. Let's end this." Aminata spoke up. "Then we need to find the hand behind the curtain, and fast." They all turned to the screen. One more video remained. A foreign man, clean-shaven, in a NATO office, speaking perfect French. Burkina Faso will fall, not by bombs, but by silence. One defection at a time. Traore leaned forward. Then let's make some noise. He stood tall, taller than ever. The counterattack would begin. The next morning, the sky over Ouagadougou was overcast, casting a pallid gray across the compound. But inside the presidential war chamber, there was light of clarity, of purpose, of rage tempered into strategy. President Traore, Yacouba, Aminata, and Sidi Tall stood around a digital map now updated with red dots representing enemy sympathizers, embedded within the government, military, and diplomatic channels. We've identified 14 assets, Aminata reported, 7 inside Burkina Faso. The other 7 scattered across West Africa, all tied to what Tall calls the Phoenix Accord. Tall nodded grimly. It's a covert alliance, Western-backed operatives posing as regional diplomats, peace envoys, or aid workers. Their goal is to fracture Pan-African unity, one betrayal at a time. Traore clenched his fists, and we were pawns in their opening moves. No longer, said Yacouba. Now we play offense. Aminata zoomed in on the digital map. Their next summit is in Accra. In 72 hours, the Accord's leadership will be meeting under the guise of a trade forum. We have one shot to expose them to the African Union and the world. Tall added, and we'll need to be careful. If they suspect we know, they'll vanish. No traces, no evidence. The coup they want won't need guns, just silence. Traore paced slowly. Then we'll use the one thing they didn't count on. What's that? Asked Yacouba. Loyalty. The plan was audacious. Sidi Tall would attend the Accra summit as if he were defecting. He would wear a micro camera, transmit everything live to a covert AU intelligence network. Aminata had discreetly contacted. Traore and Yacouba would remain in Burkina, preparing to act on the fallout. As the room cleared, Traore pulled Yacouba aside. Are you sure about him? He asked. Yacouba looked toward Tall, who was already rehearsing lines for his cover story. I believe him now, but I won't take my eye off him. Redemption is not an end, it's a process. Traore nodded, spoken like a man who knows both sides. 3 days later, the summit in Accra began under the facade of a regional economic forum. Ivory silk banners hung outside a glistening hotel, and inside, men in tailored suits and staged smiles walked like ghosts through corridors thick with treachery. Tall entered the hall flanked by 2 aides, both undercover Burkinabe agents. His micro camera, hidden behind a false shirt button, streamed to Aminata's station in Ouagadougou. Traore, Yacouba, and a handful of trusted officers watched in real time from the war room. Tension rippled through the air with every breath. On screen, Tall greeted an EU envoy with a nod, took a drink from a server, then slipped into a conference room with 6 men. Behind closed doors, the real meeting began. We've removed the DOMITA threat, said one man, unaware his voice was being recorded. Traore will either fall or cave in. Either way, our assets in Gao and Niamey will tighten the noose. Another voice, time to activate the press package. Paint him as a dictator, stir unrest from inside. Tall leaned forward, and Project Koba? The eldest among them replied, Koba is operational. Once Traore is gone, the new leadership will comply. Resources, land rights, military access, all yours. Traore's fist slammed the table in real time. Monsters, he muttered. Back in Accra, one of the men leaned in toward Tall. You've done well, Sidi. I admit, we doubted your loyalty, but here you are. Tall gave a faint smile. Loyalty is a complicated word. Then he stood. What are you doing? One asked. Tall buttoned his jacket, delivering a message. Outside alarms sounded. Canaan security forces, tipped off and now allied through Aminata's contacts, swarmed the hotel. Doors burst open. Diplomatic immunity badges were ripped from lapels. Computers were seized. Agents detained. Chaos exploded on screen. In the war room, cheers broke out, but Traore remained solemn. Begin phase 2, he ordered. Sweep our government, arrest the remaining Phoenix assets, and activate the broadcast. That night, President Traore addressed not just Burkina Faso but Africa. Standing before the Pan-African flag, flanked by Aminata and Yacouba, he spoke directly into the lens with fire in his eyes. For too long, he said, we believed our enemies wore different flags. But the truth is more cruel. Our enemies wore our own uniforms, sat in our offices, ate at our tables. He paused. But they underestimated the power of something they cannot manufacture. Trust rebuilt, loyalty earned, and a people awakened. Footage from the summit played. Names were named, faces shown, documents unveiled. The Phoenix Accord, once a myth, was exposed as a continental betrayal. Traore ended his speech with one sentence etched in every Burkinabe's memory: "We will not fall in silence. We will rise in truth." And with that, the storm began to pass, replaced by something rare in the world of geopolitics: hope. For a brief moment, Burkina Faso stood taller. Traoré's broadcast had ignited a firestorm across the continent. African news agencies were flooded with coverage of the Phoenix Accord. Countries once hesitant about Traoré's radical independence now extended open hands, if not in alliance, at least in respect. But storms don't end with thunder. They end with embers, hot, hidden, and deadly. 2 days after the global exposure of the Phoenix Accord, a blackout swept through Ouedo, not a technical glitch, something deliberate. Power stations shut down in sequence. Generators failed, and in the darkness, a scream was heard. The presidential compound lit up with sirens. Aminata ran through the corridors to the infirmary, heart pounding. She flung the door open and gasped. A guard lay bleeding on the floor, a syringe in his neck. Inside the room, the president's personal medic, Dr. Salif Dolo, stood against the far wall, hands trembling. He injected him and ran. Dr. Dolo stammered. "Who?" Aminata demanded, pistol already drawn. Dr. Dolo's voice cracked. "One of our own, Major Hamadou. He was assigned to kitchen duty." She cursed under her breath and radioed security. "Code Scarlet. President may be targeted. Lock down the kitchens. Check every uniform." At that very moment, President Traoré sat in the Situation Room, reviewing a list of newly discovered Phoenix sympathizers across the Sahel. He was tired, his eyes ringed with sleepless determination, but his instinct was razor sharp. The lights flickered. The emergency phone rang. "This is Aminata. There's a possible infiltration. You need to move. Now."
Oh!
He stood instantly. "Where?" "Security wing. Room 23. Maury's squad is en route." He didn't wait for an escort. Traoré burst through the side corridor, moving like a soldier again.
Oh!
No ceremony, no caution, just urgency. But the traitor was ahead of him. Major Hamadou, disguised in full security gear, stepped into the shadowed hallway near room 23. In his hand, a remote detonator. He pressed it. Nothing happened. Then a voice behind him, "Looking for this." Aminata emerged from the dark, holding the real detonator. "You should have used two-factor authentication." Before Hamadou could reach for his gun, she shot him clean through the shoulder. He crumpled, the fake vest exploding with sparks. Non-lethal, a decoy. Maury's men dragged him away. President Traoré arrived seconds later. He saw the blood, the gun. Aminata, unshaken. "Is it over?" he asked. "Not yet," she replied. He said something while bleeding, called himself a sister flame. Yacouba entered, panting from the other hallway. "There's chatter online. A splinter cell. Phoenix may be fractured, but someone's still moving in the ashes. Then we find them," Traoré said. "Burn them out." That night, Aminata and Sidi Tall sat in the secure intel lab, pouring through the intercepted communications from Hamadou's encrypted device. One phrase kept repeating in coded French: "The fire judges the Phoenix." Chal leaned back. "It's not just a message, it's a philosophy." "You think it's a faction?" Aminata asked. "More like a cult. Radicalized ex-operatives who think Phoenix was too soft. They want to accelerate the chaos, bombings, assassinations, civil war, whatever forces Traoré to lose control." They paused as one more decrypted file flashed across the screen. A name. AK Aminata froze. Her hand twitched. Chal noticed. "You know who that is?" She nodded slowly. "Amadou Kabore. My old commander. Thought he died in Mali 3 years ago." Chal's eyes darkened. What if he didn't? The next day, Traore met with his inner circle in a classified underground chamber. The walls were lined with war artifacts and ancient maps, a place used only in the direst of times. Aminata briefed them. The traitor isn't just inside. He built the tunnel. A rogue unit loyal to Traore is operating in the countryside, pretending to be our army. They're recruiting from displaced youth, wearing our colors, twisting our revolution into a vendetta. Yacouba leaned over the map. They're moving east toward Diapaga. Traore nodded. That's near the gold mines. Exactly, Aminata added. They don't want to overthrow you. They want to bankrupt you, kill trust in the streets, create chaos where only Traore can restore order. Traore stood in silence for a moment. Then I want Traore alive. No martyrdom, no legend, alive. More objected. Sir, he won't be taken easily. I didn't say easy, Traore said. I said alive. The mission was set. At sunrise, an elite team led by Yacouba and Aminata flew out to Diapaga in unmarked helicopters. Disguised as traders, they moved through village paths, collecting whispers. The locals feared the new army, but didn't know they weren't real. 2 days in, Aminata spotted an insignia she hadn't seen in years. Traore's wolf symbol, worn on the sleeve of a young boy, no older than 15. She knelt beside him. Where did you get that? My uncle gave it to me, he said. The fire is coming. Her blood turned cold. At midnight they found it. A camp hidden deep in the forest, lit by red lanterns, guarded by children, holding real rifles. At the center a man stood giving orders, gray beard, scar down his right cheek. Traore, Aminata watched from the bushes. He's alive. Yacouba radioed back. And if he's here, this ends tonight. But not with bullets, with truth. The jungle outside Diapaga was quiet, too quiet. Aminata Keïta crouched in the foliage, heart hammering against her ribs. Beside her, Yacouba adjusted the frequency on their encrypted comms. Overhead, the stars blinked, watching as if judging history's next move. Through the binoculars, they could see him, Amadou Traore, the ghost from Aminata's past, the warlord cloaked in a freedom fighter's myth. His red lanterns gave the forest an eerie glow. Around him stood his new recruits, dozens of teenagers dressed in mismatched uniforms, all armed, all loyal. Time to make contact, Yacouba whispered. Aminata nodded, but not as soldiers. They left their rifles behind, raised their hands, and stepped into the clearing. Guns clicked instantly. Young eyes filled with fear and fury focused on them. One false move would mean death. Then Traore looked up. Well, he said, the ghost walks into the fire. Aminata met his gaze. No, I walk into truth. He chuckled, still so noble. You're recruiting children. I'm building warriors. You're building graves. Traore paced toward her. Don't preach to me, Keïta. We were the same once. Fighting men in suits who drank Africa dry. I haven't changed. No, she said. You've decayed. He stopped. Yacouba stepped forward. The president wants you alive. Traore smirked. I bet he does. To parade me in front of the cameras. To silence what I know. What you know, Aminata said, is drowned in what you've done. Traore suddenly roared. I lost everything for this revolution. I was left to die in Mali, while the new king sat on a golden chair. That king, she shot back, walks through markets without guards. He eats with farmers. He bleeds when his people bleed. And yet, Traore hissed, he sent you with guns. Aminata opened her coat. We came with truth. And then she pulled out a tablet. On screen, footage from the Phoenix Accord exposure. Traore's speech. The summit, the lies, the manipulations. She turned it to face the crowd of teenage soldiers. Watch what they did to all of us, she said. Not just you, not just me, all of us. The camp fell into silence. The young recruits, faces once hardened, now flickered with doubt. Traore watched it too, arms folded, jaw clenched, rage warred with reason. Then Aminata added quietly, you're not my enemy, but if you raise that army, you become one. A long pause, Then Kabore dropped to a log. Did he really say all that? He asked. Yes, Yacouba said. And he meant it. Kabore nodded slowly. Then maybe I was wrong. Cheers didn't erupt. There were no victory speeches, just silence, the kind that follows after a man reclaims a lost piece of his soul. That night, Kabore gave himself up. His army disbanded. Many of the boys returned to their villages with UN escorts. Others stayed volunteering to train, under real officers, with time, with honor. 2 weeks later, President Ibrahim Traoré stood at the edge of a rural airstrip. Dust swirled around his boots. A single transport plane waited on the tarmac. A military truck pulled up. Kabore stepped out, shackled, surrounded by guards. Aminata and Yacouba stood by. Traoré walked over. You'll face a tribunal, he said. I expect nothing less, Kabore replied. But I ask one thing. What? That the boys I train be given a chance to serve, the right way. Traoré nodded. Done. Kabore blinked, surprised, then gave the faintest of smiles, the kind only the broken and redeemed ever wear. As the plane carried him away, Aminata turned to the president. Did we win? He looked to the horizon. No, but we didn't lose. And sometimes that's how peace begins. 3 months passed. The Phoenix Accord was shattered. Foreign influence weakened. Trust once fractured, now patched with blood and humility. Traoré's government remained under pressure, but it stood stronger. In a quiet village in northern Burkina Faso, a new training academy opened for rural youth, taught by veterans, farmers, and even ex-rebels. A sign hung over the entrance. Truth reclaims the lost. In the capital, Aminata was promoted to Director of National Intelligence. Yacouba, now a minister, reformed the armed forces with a doctrine called service through people. And President Traoré. He sat one night under the stars, far from the palace. No bodyguards, no maps, just a bowl of rice and a battered notebook. Inside, he wrote, "The revolution is not a moment, it is a vow. We will be betrayed again, we will fall again, but each time we will rise, if not because of strength, then because of truth. And if that truth demands sacrifice, so be it. We are not here to reign. We are here to serve. Even if history forgets our names." He closed the book, looked to the sky, and smiled. Not because the world was at peace, but because for the first time in years, his soul was